Boxing truth here. Adonis Stevenson, one of the biggest chumps in boxing, is content with just being a paper lineal champion and continuing to fight trash opposition. The boxing fans have lost respect for Adonis Stevenson. He's not acting like a proper world champion. Ever since he signed a deal with Al Heyman about 2 years ago, he's been cherry picking very soft, easy, voluntary defenses of his WBC strap. He has not made a mandatory defense of the WBC title in almost 3 years. However, the WBC will work with fighters, especially fighters that provide large sanctioning fees. WBC, for whatever reason, not really too interested in ordering mandatory defenses, but we'll make exceptions as long as there are large sanctioning fees to be collected. Now, Adonis Stevenson, he's been fighting some weak-ass opposition, and it looked like pretty much this year he's another Al Heyman fighter that's been inactive, has been on the shelf, he hasn't fought since last September. He's become a 2-time-a-year fighter ever since he signed his exclusive advisory agreement with Al Heyman. However, it was reported not too long ago that he has a date for his return, his first fight of the year. The date's July 16th, and where the Heyman has a plan to do a double header, according to this report, where the winners of the main event, which features Adonis Stevenson, and the co-feature, which features Eledor Alvarez, who will be fighting, according to the report, it's not official, but it's probably going to be announced very soon. That's the date, July 16th. Still no network that has been decided. It won't be known until it's been announced. Either perhaps Fox or Showtime Sports. But in the main event, it will be Adonis Stevenson against Thomas Williams Jr., another pretender that Adonis Stevenson is going to be fighting. And then the co-feature will be Eledor Alvarez against Chad Dawson. That's the name I read from the report. Former champion who got iced by Adonis Stevenson over 3 years ago. Now, for Adonis Stevenson's next fight, he's pretty much handpicking another opponent in the WBC top 15 rankings. Thomas Williams Jr., 29 years old, from Maryland, I believe. Southpaw is coming off a knockout win over Edwin Rodriguez. He's still underdeveloped, still greened, still very green. He's just not ready for this level. He's an unworthy challenger. Has had a soft upbringing, not in there with the best type of development fights to get ready for this type of level. Yes, he knocked out Edwin Rodriguez, but I'm not impressed with Edwin Rodriguez with that knockout win. I mean, Edwin Rodriguez is by no means no world beater. Who's he beating? Besides, look how the way he's been fighting lately. I'm not surprised Edwin Rodriguez got chinned by Thomas Williams Jr., considering he almost got knocked out by Michael Seals in the fight prior to that. I mean, the dude's defense is just terrible. And in my opinion, he should be done with boxing. He shouldn't be fighting no more. He's just going to get chinned by the next guy he fights with some power, because the guy simply has no defense. Thomas Williams Jr. didn't come out of that fight unscathed, though. He got rocked, almost knocked out in the fight. But luckily for him, Edwin Rodriguez just has no defense, and Thomas Williams Jr. was able to pull himself out of that hole, and on the verge of perhaps being stopped, and was able to turn things around in his favor and getting a knockout win, and now put him in the position. Well, it was pretty much an audition. The winner of that fight was gonna fight Adonis Stevenson regardless, so the fighters knew what was at stake: a world title shot. And now Thomas Williams Jr., ready or not, will be getting his title shot most likely. It was going to be announced shortly. Stevenson's already in training. He's already aware of the opponent date. He's already putting the work in as he's continuing to fight very weak opposition. And the plan's already mapped out for Adonis Stevenson. Just more safe, easy title defenses. Guys, I don't believe that are worthy challengers or serious challengers, serious contenders. Guys that are still developing, still with very few fights. And that is going to be the plan for Adonis Stevenson this year. Instead of getting a legacy fight, getting up there in age, going to be 39 years old this year, he's going to keep feasting on opponents that are not considered the strongest available contenders, especially within the WBC rankings. He won't even fight Andre Fonfara. Ducked the rematch since it was not easy work in his first initial fight under his deal with Al Heyman. That was supposed to be a showcase fight. He ended up going 12 hard rounds, even got knocked down. At the time, Andre Fonfara was not highly regarded. It was supposed to be a showcase bout. It ended up being a life and death struggle for Adonis Stevenson. So now it's a little head scratching that Andre Fonfara is not the mandatory challenger for Adonis Stevenson's strap. The number one challenger mandatory defense will be Eleider Alvarez. As I said earlier in this video, Eleider Alvarez is the mandatory challenger. He's the WBC silver champion, so he's the next guy in line to face off whoever still has the WBC title when the bout's mandated. But it is head scratching that Andre Fonfara is number 2, considering he's coming off a good win over a former world champion, a more higher regarded opponent compared to Eleider Alvarez's last fight. Alvarez is still, I'm not impressed. I've seen him fight a few times. The guy struggles with C-level opposition. Had a debatable decision win on his home soil against Isaac Chilemba. And Andre Fonfara is coming off a good win over a former world champion, Nathan Cleverly. But he's number 2 in the rankings, and Eleider Alvarez is number 1. So the plan for Adonis Stevenson, very disappointing, as there's not going to be any big significant fights that we can look forward to. Considering Stevenson still has power, despite the cherry picking and the soft opposition, content with the Heyman philosophy of not fighting any challenges, but he's been ducking and dodging threats for a long time. Pretty much since he's been signed with Al Heyman. But the plan is he's going to fight Thomas Williams Jr., who is rated number 9 by the WBC. Another safe, easy, voluntary defense, as Williams Jr. is just not ready for that level. Then he's going to fight the winner of Eleider Alvarez and Chad Dawson. And if Alvarez wins, WBC will finally make a mandatory defense order of Stevenson. The last mandatory defense, believe it or not, was in November of 2013. That's the last time Adonis Stevenson made a mandatory defense. And now all of a sudden, almost 3 years later, the WBC is going to enforce a mandatory defense for Stevenson, and what perhaps could be against Eleider Alvarez, a fighter who's still developing, not the strongest opponent, not the strongest available opponent at light heavyweight, even in within the top 15 of the WBC rankings. So this is what's going to happen for Stevenson's career. More cherry picking, more soft, voluntary defenses, more, instead of going out for the challenges, going out and get some big money fights, going after Sergey Kovalev. Yes, there is blame on both sides when it comes to that deal. But it just makes it makes Stevenson look more bad compared to Kovalev's team. When you look at the opposition that Stevenson has been fighting, Kovalev has been challenging himself, the unifighting titles, and he's been making plans, making moves, getting bigger paydays, and now he's about to be in his first pay-per-view fight, if all goes according to plan, against Andre Ward in November of this year. What is Stevenson doing? Cherry-picking voluntary defenses, fighting underdeveloped mandatory challengers, and yet he wants respect. If you want respect, you gotta beat somebody. You gotta stop cherry-picking. Stop taking the path of least resistance. Beat the top dog in your division, who's getting much more recognition than you are. Ring Magazine stripped you, bruh, because you wouldn't fight any top 5 opponent. And now Kovalev's ahead of you, rated number 1. And he can't be recognized as the ring champion because your ass or your manager won't let you fight him. But it is what it is with Adonis Stevenson. More cherry picking. Content with being a lineal paper champion and fighting trash opposition. This is Boxing Truth. I'm out.